showtime.
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. But first things first, hey everybody, it's the T-Rock the 100! Welcome back to more of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Blind. Last time, the former trial had been gone through, and we are about ready to talk it to Mr. Marshall to the stands, and let's hear what we have to say for the very matter. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Hey, partner. Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly across intersections when needed. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman.
As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out.
To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor.
Howling wind? Never heard it described that way before.
Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct?
According to the papers, partner.
What do you mean?
A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up.
Maybe it's best to get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In English.
Time to him for to break his character a bit, I guess. My job was to keep a wary eye on the bone organ. They said it was supposed to make around 3 times a day, and that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. Remember right, I was at a street-side salon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man. If you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail.
I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't seem to be complaining.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoker like you knows those about.
Well, yes. What about the fingerprint-activated locks inside the evidence room?
Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickey are those?
He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines, or with following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor?
This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
Ha! Gladly. My job was to keep weary on the bone working.
Alright, how exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still, even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who entered the recording.
You interred them?
Videos are nothing on it that useful. If the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours.
Each time I'd erase the tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. It's clear for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do any good.
So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
No, Desperado, I know let rules get in this way. Desperados, I know, join the police force.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime?
Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day.
There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry, partner, can't say I do. Haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
He's got to avoid being fired.
He's protected by 2C. Okay, that's fine. Wait a minute.
Hate to break it to you, buddy, but we can actually call you out on this. You were in there at the time, and they were wiping it down. Objection!
Objection!
Ha! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime.
And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner.
It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint.
Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. So natural my fingerprints would be in there.
I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood! Witness! What's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints that were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away. However, a luminal test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall?
Seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
I take it you have an explanation on this, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints. Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. Found at the scene of the crime.
Oh, goody. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer had touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it.
The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's some room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner.
The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Oh yeah. Now's my chance to prove it. I'm gonna ask her about this one. That's because you, how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month?
Yeah, that's right. That, and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine.
What? What do you mean?
I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It's strange that my prints weren't all over that locker. His fingerprint data has never changed.
He must have been using the fingerprint locks without even knowing it. Okay. I'm gonna ask about this one. So then, what about the bloody handprint?
Wasn't mine. It's no mystery.
Please explain.
My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened.
I don't trust this one. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1.
On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. Chances of that not happening are a million to one. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
Unrelated.
They're as different as a night and day. Kind of cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast while the other's a type of murder.
He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different.
I say, well, how many names do I have to do with this?
I don't think it was wearing gloves. How do you know that?
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports.
There was a blood stain at the scene, though to be left by the murderer.
That's right.
It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint.
Yeah, I think we tried that too.
So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place his hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprints.
That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner?
The picture.
This seal of blood in the desert is just a food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise.
This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. What do you mean by that?
You want to tie me into the crime? Isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera had been panning it back and forth. The floor isn't showing. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, he couldn't leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall is present, please do so now.
I think we might have something.
Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall.
So we can't see his face from there. So that part's fine.
There was one thing that I did notice from this video, and that just happened to be right here. Right there. And one on the short right here. That's what I noticed from before, from the last episode, when that cloth was hanging from the locker. It was never there before, but now it was at the very last bit of it. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall.
The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less?
Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video.
Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner.
The key? lies in a certain locker shown in the video. See this locker that has a white cloth sticking out? This is the witness's locker. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh! The white cloth! It's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! It would seem that's the only—
Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it.
Yeah, it was. Your fingerprint? You had to do it.
The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine.
Okay, you're wrong again. Only you can open it. No one else can. Your fingerprint proves it.
Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb.
He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker.
Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say you opened that locker? Now prove it.
With
pleasure.
Didn't want to have to do this to you, because like I said,
take that! Fingerprint sensor.
We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to.
What kind of crazy talk is this?
Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this.
In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There's even some people in the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks.
So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less?
Oh! I got one word for you, partner. No!
Order! Witness, explain yourself!
If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard.
I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Is he chewing on jerky? Ole! Please answer the question. What is he now? A bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so then, where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Quite simple. Right here, opening this locker. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There? But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. He couldn't have. May I point out, though, that Officer Mickens did not know Detective Goodman? He also testified about that man's reaction when confronted.
When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show us the card, sir.
Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond?
He suddenly pulled a knife on me!
Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been here carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman has pictures on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall?
You've got quite an imagination, partner. You've got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial evidence.
Still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving that you're dressed up as the victim.
I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition.
I can say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining.
Officer Wright, do you have any evidence? Any evidence have proven beyond this point that no doubt the Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well,
I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat.
it can't be happening. So obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics.
For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me.
Nick, try thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might have been discovered later as it had been.
Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Wait a minute!
It's the same cloth that is in the exhaust of Edgeworth's car! It has to be. Perhaps this video is the key to all of our unanswered questions. I'm gonna get evidence, so this video's not my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his lock. Okay. So there was something that was close to the end that it was probably something that might have been overlooked. But it was also time for when Officer Meekins right here came around to find out more about what was going on. Hold on a minute. Aha! So it was something I kind of overlooked right here. Look at all those marks on there. If that's what I think it is, and that knife definitely looks very familiar. Even I kind of overlooked this at first, but I kept an eye on his movement just in case. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room. I don't know what that reason was yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show you your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, huh, partner?
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here, now would we?
Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it.
Alright. It seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. He managed to escape. I knew which area wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Large quantities of blood traces were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could you not be?
Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. I guess he's the donor.
It looked like too much blood for that.
Yuck. So no blood-borne hand contamination was made on to you, buddy.
When you say it, you mean...
Do you even have to ask, partner? It's an incident.
2 years have passed since the case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over.
But what did he hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only the detective who was in charge of it can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine.
Officer Marshall was in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it?
That day was my last chance. That's why
Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
But didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal. I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card.
I stole that the morning of the incident.
So that really was how Goodman started filing out that lost item report.
I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean, the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Normally, that locker shouldn't have opened. So it opened because a rubber glove was stuck in the door by chance. Then Detective Goodman must have opened it in the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off.
Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of a person. Mistaking him a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his race, his this year.
Edward gets so much influence. Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. So it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything.
By the way, what happened to your knife?
Oh, you mean this one?
I don't know what to say. So what happened next? So you did your research beforehand.
Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been there.
However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins.
If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there.
What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is on that day... But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner.
So you stole the evidence from the locker?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence is already gone.
What? Mr. Edric, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor.
This locker was already empty.
Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer.
Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer, this is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. You would have serious consequences. You can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Cuts aren't ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. It's one of mine. This one's mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was getting convicted for those crimes. One thing I can say for sure, he deserved his sentence. Remember the Joe Dark case? It involved serial murders, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Why is he so concerned with that incident?
Maybe you should present him with that. I think his real reason is. I have a feeling he'll wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. But I take another look at that files.
Right. Files of the... We never even looked into this. Joe Dark crime, serial murder, sentenced to death. Anna Kirby, Rachel Moss, Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Jeb Bates, Niall Marshall. Lay prosecutor Miles Edgeworth. Witness Lana Sky, Emma Scott. Oh, that makes sense. Exclusive investigators David Gans and Lana Sky. Head investigators Bruce Good, investigators Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. It was closed. So when are we going to present it to you? Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much with the SO9 incident.
Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner.
I had the SO9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here.
Huh?
In a list of murder victims. Niall Marshall. Are you related to this man? Niall Marshall.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard of the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award.
Now I remember. Prosecutor Niall Marshall. He handled the SO9 case before I did.
That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, chief detective at the time. The group of detectives I was a part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public record.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight.
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me!
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with this resolution, Officer Marshall had planned to steal the evidence.
Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room.
Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder of the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department.
Chance? It's gotta be more than just that.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed this crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye.
Objection!
But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial!
Objection!
Which is why we examined the incident in the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the stimulus murder at the police department.
It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner.
All the mysteries at the police department have been uncovered. No contradictions. Remain. The murder took place on the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. There were no errors in the testimony in the witnesses. Angel Star. Do you have a response? Make it one word or less. I rest my case. Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt that what I proved today is true.
The apparent murder on the security camera tape really was fake. I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds him the defendants.
Huh? Emma! Your Honor, wait!
Emma!
The defense has an objection! A scientific objection! Right?
What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, were you this girl's guardian? Your Honor.
Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor,
All I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. If you want a minute, I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SO9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings.
Now that she mentions it,
The name of both Sky Sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left not only one thing, the other handprint.
you mean the traces of blood found in Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured I'd examine it scientifically. I'd be sure to find a clue. So, I ran over there and looked at it again.
So what did you find?
No.
Huh?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regards to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with the blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. You don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. Whenever I needed to concentrate, it's now.
What could be wrong with that trace handprint at Detective Goodham's locker? Could there be something I'm missing?
Wait a minute. Only one rubber glove was found on that day. I can't recall what hand it was specifically. Let me look into this real quick. It was the left hand. And... I have to raise an objection. Yeah, it was one on the right hand. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intense at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Right! The blue badger! It was missing! Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
All this evidence here, there's gotta be something I can use.
The question is, which item can we prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Quite simple. It was this. This one was dancing in the evidence room at the police time of the murder of the police department. But when we got in there from later on, it was missing. Take that! Take that! What about that piece of plywood?
The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of the truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
Please look at the floor plans at the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So? So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it wouldn't be impossible to place a handprint at the spot of the locker. What? Ha-ha! Yes! So that means, just what exactly does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniable found at that locker. Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma. On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badge into the evidence room, right? After you put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must have been his blood mark was left there before the blue badge was brought in. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice! But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins had cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time, someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman, when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refute you. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves that it occurred. When did the first incident occurred? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was disguised as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. The blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did the first incident occur? Proof must have been presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present this evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? That's easy! It was the one portion of when the evidence room that was entered, and it was at the time for when this person entered at 4:20 p.m. at the very earliest, to maybe before Miles Edgeworth went in there. Or excuse me, before Bruce Goodman went in there. So this is the only thing that we got. Take that! Take that! If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the perpetrator would have to have entered the room. In order to do so, an ID card is required. ID card? Oh! The ID card record! Officer Meekins said it brought the blue badge or panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40. Ah! Ah! Miles Edgeworth! Just what have you done? Never figured you had nerve, boy. Put off the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. It would have just been 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his own body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card remaining in 77777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Officer Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777777. Mr. Edgeworth, Please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77777777777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present.
What? Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called exclusive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge file against one's executive is accepted. An official charge.
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate if you would keep your slander here to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question.
Yes?
No, not you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
Lana? Don't be stupid! She's been charged with murder! Of course, we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777777.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
Yes or no incident?
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat this question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. That time we felt the powerlessness of the law.
At least I did.
Hannah? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized that we were the only ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant! Just what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't! I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why don't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserves. But Lana! Even if it involved forging evidence.
See? That's what I'm talking about!
No. No! Order! 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 Officer must cause such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. Conclusion on the trial. We'll have to wait until the following day. That's bad! Well, we're down to our final investigation, and let me tell you, it's gonna be long. And I can already feel it. If the last one was like almost 2 hours long, who's to say that this next one isn't going to be just as long as ever? In fact, I'm going to try my best to make this into a double-parter. So, we're gonna end things off right here. Next time, the first part of the investigation will begin. And we got one more day in it to prove this once and for all. See you guys then.